Hello my friends, it's Rain here. Welcome to Rain Francis Art. Today I'm pulling out my watercolors and I'm going to paint this fall-inspired tree. I hope you join along. This is what I'll be using for the painting today. I've got my Strathmore watercolor cold press paper. This is the 300 series and it is 140 pound, 9 by 12 inches, and I have it landscape. I also have my paints, of course, my pan paints here. It's Pretty Excellent is the name of the brand. I got these paints off Amazon. Not sure if they go under a different name or not, but that's where I found them. And I will be using the top row mostly for the warm colors, the yellows, oranges, and reds, and browns at the bottom. It's going to be a nice warm palette. As for brushes, I will let you know at the end, not at the end, but in the description what I end up using. But I've got a large round brush here. I have a number 4 round brush here. This is a number 2 flat and a number 4 liner brush. If I end up using other brushes, like I said, I'll leave it in the description, a list of everything that I ended up using. I have some water, some paper towels. I've taped down my canvas with masking tape as well, and I think that's it. So I am going to begin. And I was just thinking of autumn, and I just wanted to do kind of a bit of an abstract painting a tree, autumn tree. I saw a few ideas on the internet, so I'm just going to apply wet on dry. And this is my palette, but what I'll do is I'll let you know what colors I'm using as I go along, okay? So I just have my number 4 round brush here, and I'm going to dip it into, my yellow. Let's start with yellow, and it is lemon yellow, okay? And I'm just kind of going to go around just like that. Actually, I'm going to put my water dish right in front of me here in hopes that I don't drop it all over me. And sorry about all the shadows. When it comes to my watercolor paintings, I kind of have to choose between shadows and glare, and I think shadows are better than glare, so I'm just dipping into my lemon yellow. This is kind of the shape of the tree. I don't know what kind of tree it is, but now I'm just going to choose an orange color. I have a nice cadmium orange. It's a bit of a darker orange, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just kind of going around. I don't want to mix them too much right now. Just give the illusion of trees here. Not trees, leaves. Leaves, not trees. And this is just an abstract painting, just to have a little fun today, with my dog snoring in the background. Now I'm going to go into the reds. Probably, let's see, I want a nice orangey red. I've got a cadmium red. It looks orangey. I want to kind of keep to the warm reds. I don't want to stick in a cold red there. It's a nice warm red. There we go. Now I'm going to let that dry a little bit, and I'm going to take my little number 2 flat brush, and I'm wetting it, and I'm going to choose a brown. I'm going to choose a sienna brown, I think. Yeah, nice sienna brown, because that's a reddish kind of brown. And I'm just going to I'm going to paint a trunk here. Nothing fancy. Back into that sienna. And I'm just going to put an idea of maybe a few branches here and there. These might get painted out when I add more of my color though. All right. So this is just the beginning. What I'm going to do is take that large round brush, get that wet, and I'm going to go into my yellow again, my lemon yellow. I'm just going to paint the bottom here all the way down to my masking tape. Let me move my water out of the way so I don't make all that noise. So I'm going right down to my masking tape. So when I take the masking tape off, it'll look nice and framed. Back into my cadmium orange, and I'm just going to put a little bit of cadmium orange in there too. Just so those two colors mix a little bit. And I'm going to do the same thing with the cadmium red, using the same colors. And I'll let that dry as is, and that's all I'm doing for the base of the tree, or the ground area, I should say. So now I'm going to experiment a little bit. I've got a larger flat brush. This is a number 6. And I'm going to go in, and I see that my leaves are pretty much dry. I'm going to start with a cadmium yellow. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here. I'm just going to do little kind of strokes like that in the cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow is a nice orangey looking yellow. And as I'm doing this, you can see some of the colors are mixing together, which is great. I don't mind that at all. I want it to look really abstract. I'm just tapping. Kind of using a Bob Ross method, you know? He used to tap everything. Now I want to take a little red. What color should I use? Probably that cadmium red again, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to tap, 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 tap. Get my brush nice and wet. Okay, and I want to let that dry a little bit before I decide to do anything more on the tree. Why don't I just grab that little flat brush again and put some more brown, more of that sienna onto the trunk. And I'm going to let that bleed kind of into the ground there. There. And I'll do the same thing. I'll just take a little bit of that sienna, and with the tip of my flat brush, put the illusion of maybe some branches here and there. So I'm going to let that dry. I have a little fan, which is really neat, actually. I wanted to show you guys this. I've shown it before. It plugs into your computer. It's like a little fan like this, and it's really good for drying your watercolors. I used to use a hair dryer, but it's a hot setting, and I didn't want to use the hot setting. I wanted to use the cold setting, so I'm going to let this dry for a bit. There are parts of my tree that are still a little bit wet, but I am going to continue anyway. Now I've got my number 4 round brush here, and what I'm going to do is splatter. I'm going to go around and splatter. So I've just got a pencil, or you could use your finger. You know, you just want something that you can tap your brush onto. So I'm going to start with that lemon yellow color and get my brush really filled with paint. It's super loaded with paint right now. And I'm just going to splatter everywhere. and I'm going to have to continually load it up. I want big splashes and small splashes. I just painted my pencil. And I do want to get splatter into the tree as well. It may not show, the yellow might not show right now, but I'm going to go ahead and do that with all of the colors that I use, that cadmium orange as well. Get that loaded up with paint. Oh, nice big splashes, big splatters. I used to use a toothbrush to do this, but the thing with the toothbrush is it just really gets everywhere. Like, I find splatter halfway across the room. I know that's an exaggeration, but you know, it really, really gets everywhere. So. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing with the cadmium red. Make sure I get it loaded up with paint. And make sure it's wet, you know, otherwise it won't splatter very well. Like, I don't have enough water there. It didn't splatter very well. I love splatter. Paint splatter, that is. Oh, wow. Look what happened there. I went like this. Oh, neat. I just taught myself something. If you brush it off the pencil, you get nice little tiny splatters. How cool. Now that's what Bob Ross would call a happy accident. I never ever knew that before. How neat. Little accidents, eh? That is really cool. Nice. I'll try doing that with the yellow too. Get that cadmium yellow. Oops. Just dropped my paintbrush there. I'm too excited about my discovery. Nice. This pencil is finished though. I suppose I could just wipe it off or wash it off. Now that is super cool. Don't you love when you discover new techniques? I've never seen anyone do this. Whenever I see people do splatter, they just do it always the same way. That was just a mistake. Huh. Neat. I'm in the cadmium orange now, by the way. I'm overdoing it now with the splatter, but I don't care. It looks cool. Nice. What I would like to do, though, is try to get that huge spot off there. I'm just using water, and I'm going to kind of wipe it off. Hopefully I can wipe it off. I'll just take a paper towel. Why don't I move my water? Take a paper towel and just blot it off. Take some fresh water and try to get that off. If it doesn't come off, it's not a big deal, but I'm removing some of the splatter. That's the problem. I probably should have gotten rid of that right away, but that's okay. You know what? I'm having fun. I'll grab some of that red and I'll try to cover it up with a little splatter. Put a little on the bottom here to try to make it look somewhat even. I'll grab some of my lemon yellow, put some splatter there. You think I'm overdoing it on the splatter? I think so, but that's all right. Now, why don't I stop with the splatter? I have this brush that I got at the dollar store. It's a 1-inch brush. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just going to wet it a little bit, and I'm going into my cadmium red, and I'm going to see what happens if I do this. It sort of softens the tree up a little bit. Now I'm going to clean that off. And wipe it down. Don't want any more of that red in there. And I'm gonna just dip this into my cadmium yellow. Let's see what that does. It might have been a little bit wet. That's looking pretty, actually. I am going to take a paper towel, though, and scrunch it up. I guess I'm using kind of Bob Ross technique here a little bit. I'm going to do this and blot some of that out, just so we can see some of the white underneath. And I'm probably going to go back and do more, because I really like how that looked. But I would like that to dry a little bit before I add some more. And since I'm here, I'll just take my large round brush and I'm going into my cadmium yellow. And I'm just going to kind of add some cadmium yellow here to the base of the painting where the ground is, just to erase some of that splatter. And I will do the same thing on the tree trunk. Actually, while the tree area here is drying, I'm going to take my little flat brush, if I can find it. Here it is, this little flat brush here. And I'm going to do some detail on the tree trunk. I'm going to go back into that sienna color and just fill in the tree trunk, because we did get some splatter on that. And I've got some water, and I'm just going to tap so that it'll blend into the ground there. All right. Now what I'd like to do is add a few branches at the bottom here. So I've got my brush, and I'm going into that sienna again. And I'm going to add a couple of branches. Same thing on the other side, I think. I'll add some branches coming up here. I want them to blend into the tree trunk. I'll put some more sienna onto my brush. Maybe another one. I like threes. Now I'm going to take a darker brown. I'm going to see which one. I think it's called Van Dyke brown. I think that's the darkest brown that I have. And I'll get that wet. Just want to put a little bit of shading onto the tree, just so it's not, you know, just one color, you know. Back into the Van Dyke brown, just maybe under the branches a little bit. And how about up here? And I'll just add a little bit of water to blend. There we go. Just so the tree looks a little bit, not that I'm looking for realism, because this is started off as an abstract, but it's kind of looking like a tree now, so I've got the bug to try to make it look slightly realistic, if not perhaps realistic. There. Okay. Now let me see. Still a little wet. I'm going to let that dry completely before I add another layer. Okay, well, my painting is still a little wet. I actually realized that there's a little hair kind of sticking out there. I'm going to pull that down. My brushes sometimes shed. I have a flat brush here. I don't know what size it is. It's really hard to see. I think it wore down. It might be a 6, I'm not sure. And I want to kind of experiment a little bit here to see what it looks like if I add sort of foliage with this flat brush. So I've got it wet, and I'm going to start with the cadmium yellow. I don't want it to be too wet, but I want to see what it looks like when I kind of... That looks pretty nice. It gives it a little bit of a vibrant color here and there. So I'll just do a few areas that I want to look a little more vibrant. I don't really want to cover up all the white, but I tend to do stuff like that, you know, when I'm I get carried away with color and I end up covering all the white areas. I just want to have a lot of color today because it's kind of a dreary day here. And I love bright colors. I might do some more splatter too. All right, so that's the cadmium yellow. I'm going to try, let me see, I'll get this a little wet. And I'll go into the cadmium red. I guess I'm using all the cadmiums today. Let's see. It doesn't look so bad. Let me try that cadmium yellow again. All right, let's see. Just on top of the cadmium red. I think that looks pretty. Looks pretty full for a fall tree. Why don't I go into the cadmium orange? And let's see what I can do there. I don't want to overdo it. All right. I think I should probably stop there. I am going to grab my trusty pencil though. And where's my number 4 round brush? And I'm going to do a little more splatter on the tree. Let me start with the cadmium red. I'll start with that, and I'll do my new technique here. Those thin little splatters. Should I patent this? Am I the only one who knows how to do this? I've never seen anyone do this, seriously. I'm going to go into my cadmium yellow and do some splatter on the tree with the cadmium yellow. This is fun to do. Now I think I'm going to take my little flat brush and I'm going to go into maybe the Van Dyke brown and really, really carefully put in some little branches. Bob Ross used to do this. Except for mine is a little too, it's not random enough, you know what I mean? So I'll just go in with some water and I'll just soften a few of those up. actually pulling some of that off. Can you guys hear my dog snoring? I'm going to take my large flat brush again, and I'm going to go into the cadmium, actually just regular orange. I haven't used the regular orange. It's lighter than the cadmium. Let's see if it does anything. Just adding little bits of color everywhere. How about I go into the cadmium red again? And then finally into the cadmium yellow. I'm so glad I could share this with you guys today because I had no idea what I was going to do. I did see, like I said, I saw a few images on the internet of watercolor trees in the fall, and one of them looks like this one. Can't remember where I saw it. You know, when you do an image search on the internet, sometimes you can't tell who the author is. So whoever you are, thank you for the wonderful idea. And there's my fall tree. I'm going to let that dry, then pull the masking tape off. Well, my painting is more or less dry. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like, so I'm going to pull the masking tape off. I love this. Watercolors are just amazing. I love them. They're so easy to use, so versatile. Colors are pretty. They blend together nicely. Sorry for my hand here in front of the camera. And I just moved the camera. Get this last little bit off here. Oh, that's nice. Nice clean edges. And that's my fall painting. My fall autumn tree painting, which started off, the idea was that it would be abstract, and I invented my new splatter method, which I say I invented, but I probably didn't. I hope you followed along, and I hope you enjoyed yourself, and if you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave me a comment, because I love reading your comments, and I do reply to them. And I want to give a big thank you, a big heartfelt thank you to all of my friends and followers out there who've subscribed and supported and watched my videos. It really means a lot to me. It helps my channel to grow, and I really, really appreciate it. So thanks again, my friends, and we'll see you next time on Rain Francis Art. Bye.